Quentin Tarantino has never had anything bad to say about actors. He worships them, revives their careers, and frequently constructs entire movies around their voices. To him, the medium is collaboration, authoring words that others may come alive. And yet, even within Tarantino's universe, not all collaborations were constructed to last. For all his success, Tarantino has had memories of gone-wrong partnerships. A few actors did not see eye to eye with him, some spoiled the rhythm, and a few others left him hoping the tale was told with another person. Tarantino has himself acknowledged that when balance is lost, regret stays longer than applause. In Hollywood chaos, regret is as much a heritage as triumph. And for a director who made dialogue into poetry and violence into beauty, those regrets strip away the tenuous trust between filmmaker and actor. Number 1. Bruce Willis. When Tarantino introduced Bruce Willis to Pulp Fiction, it was as if fate had brought them together. Willis acted Butch, the boxer struggling with fate and violence, and delivered a performance that solidified the film's mythic tone. But off-screen, the working relationship was not so smooth. Tarantino respected Willis's box office appeal, but wrestled with his aloofness as an actor. Where Tarantino reveled in risk-taking and exposure, Willis tended to rely on cool reserve. Cast and crew members said Tarantino afterward confessed the conflict left him uncomfortable, a caution that even genius can come with walls. Willis was Hollywood royalty already, a box office sellout with presence that commanded attendance. But Tarantino's sets required total immersion in rhythm, the dialogue, the gaps, the naked emotion between the lines. Crew members recall Tarantino requesting that Willis strip the performance bare only to face the actor's proclivity for reticence. Tarantino longed for vulnerability beneath the hardness, but Willis gravitated toward reserve. Bruce nailed the surface, Tarantino explained years later, but I wanted what was underneath. Although the end product was potent, Tarantino bore regret that the collaboration didn't share the intimate bond he experienced with Samuel L. Jackson or Christoph Waltz. The pawn shop break demonstrated Willis in top form, remaining calm under fire, dominant within the frame. But then Tarantino compared filming with him to playing jazz with a person who won't improvise. The chords were present, but the melody was absent. For Tarantino, regret was not over the show, but over the trip. Film, at its core, is trust. With Bruce Willis, that trust never came. Number 2. Don Johnson. Don Johnson played in Django Unchained as the flamboyant and frightening Big Daddy. On screen, he was irreplaceable. Off-screen, rumors suggested trouble. Johnson's improvisation periodically tested Tarantino's precise scripts. For a director who constructs dialogue as music, improvisation is akin to breaking rhythm. Johnson did what was required, yet Tarantino later admitted the process made him uneasy. For him, regret wasn't about the product on screen, it was about the journey it took to arrive there. Tarantino has frequently explained, the script is the Bible. Every word is carefully chosen, designed to hit with exact rhythm. Johnson, on the other hand, was from a style of looser television and film practice, in which actors tended to push dialogue to the point of using it in a spontaneous way. This was a subtle but pervasive difference. Johnson's instincts sometimes warped timing in ways that disturbed Tarantino. Crew members remembered times when Tarantino became exasperated as Johnson stretched out lines or ad-libbed tiny gestures. For moviegoers, those mannerisms contributed to charisma. For Tarantino, they threw the fine melody off kilter. I write words to be played like notes, he explained, and when somebody alters them, the song falls out of tune. The standoff scene on the plantation demonstrated Johnson's talent, charming, threatening, and larger than life. But Tarantino subsequently acknowledged that the working relationship left him discontented. The product was cinematic, but the experience was unbalanced. His disappointment was not with Johnson's ability, but with the discord of philosophy. The film picked up a great villain, but Tarantino departed with the belief that superb acting can be laced with regret when the compatibility behind it is lost. Number 3. Michael Madsen. Michael Madsen belongs to Tarantino's film family, from Reservoir Dogs to Kill Bill, but family can break. Their professional relationship has been turbulent, with loyalty but also tension. Madsen's volatility, his image as a late arriver or distracted worker, tried Tarantino's patience. Even though Madsen on screen was charged with electricity, the director later recalled the disorder that accompanied it. Regret, occasionally, is not casting the wrong actor. It's casting someone who couldn't always get to the moment. Madsen's work as Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs is one of Tarantino's most lasting images. His menacing cool combined with unpredictability provided Tarantino with the blueprint for the violent wild card. Behind that genius, however, there were battles. Madsen himself confessed to showing up unprepared on some days, frequently preoccupied with personal struggles that rendered concentration difficult. Michael could make or break a scene. Tarantino once explained that volatility was both a strength and a weakness. On Kill Bill, where Madsen portrayed Bud, crew members recalled periods of subdued tension as Tarantino attempted to keep the actor in check and grounded. When Madsen nailed the take, the outcome was unforgettable. When he floated, the process crawled and tempers frayed. Tarantino has since said that Madsen was as unpredictable in life as he was in character. With Michael, chaos was always part of the deal, he said. It added a level of authenticity to his acting, but also leached the trust required for cooperative work. The remorse was complicated. Tarantino was faithful to Madsen, but faithfulness cost him. The genius was undeniable, but the chaos left wounds that never fully healed. Number 4, Uma Thurman. No collaboration describes Tarantino more than his with Uma Thurman. They made Kill Bill, a revenge epic that is legend. But the collaboration came at a price. Thurman was hurt on the set of A Stunt Gone Wrong, and their friendship broke for years. Tarantino has expressed regret not over the art that they produced, but over the suffering they inflicted. For himself, in his own words, he had wanted to do things differently. Thurman and Tarantino's tale is not one of hatred, but of scars. The bride was not just a character. She was the pulse of Tarantino's imagination. Thurman's intensity, vulnerability, and athleticism had turned her into an icon of contemporary cinema. But on the set of Kill Bill, Volume 2, a stunt involving a car went awry. Thurman was hurt, and the faith between director and actor was broken. Tarantino would later confess, "It's the biggest regret of my career." The aftermath played out publicly. Thurman addressed her rage and terror openly, while Tarantino bore the burden of guilt. They shunned each other for years, their relationship broken by one disastrous day. The hurt not only transformed their friendship, but also tormented Tarantino's own feeling of accountability as an artist. But reconciliation did follow. "She was my muse," Tarantino explained, "and I let her down when she needed me most." They managed to pay respects both to the work and to the scars, taking the stage together once more years later, gingerly re-establishing trust. But regret remains. Kill Bill is still a masterpiece, but it has shadows. For Tarantino, victory will never be disconnected from the wounds of sacrifice. Number 5, Channing Tatum. Tarantino hired Channing Tatum for The Hateful Eight, but the working relationship was short and strained. Tatum's late arrival in the project and the fact that his role had little screen time caused the director to wonder if the casting actually benefited the story. Tatum himself conceded that he battled to get the role, but Tarantino subsequently mused that it never really came together. At other times, regret is not in opposition, but in the feeling of what might have been more intense. Tatum was certainly keen. He lobbied tirelessly for the role of Jody, eager to be directed by Tarantino. But when he did turn up, the cast had already established a groove. The shoot was directed like a stage production, requiring chemistry and trust developed after weeks of rehearsal. Tatum's surprise appearance was like a disruption to an ongoing symphony, disrupting the deliberate cadence Tarantino loved. "Channing gave me his full dedication," Tarantino admitted, but the role needed menace that never fully landed. While Tatum delivered his scenes with professionalism, Tarantino later suggested the casting had been more about honoring Tatum's persistence than perfect alignment with the character. Crew members remembered the cabin shootout as a test of balance. Tatum gave intensity, but it lacked the lived-in grit that defined the rest of the cast. The band's energy was intense, but Tatum felt like a guest artist in another man's beat. Tarantino's remorse was not failure, but compromise. "Sometimes the role doesn't need a star," he said. "It needs the right shadow." Tatum's presence was to be commended, but in Tarantino's band, commendation alone was insufficient to produce enduring harmony. Number 6. Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel assisted Tarantino in establishing his career as Mr. White in Reservoir Dogs. Keitel legitimized a young, inexperienced director. But appreciation did not quell tension. Tarantino was said to have found Keitel's habit of questioning every line tiring, coming into conflict with his demanding, precise dialogue. Although Keitel's presence assisted in establishing Tarantino's career, the director went on to admit he had difficulty with the collaboration. Regret in this instance came with irony. Keitel showed him the way, but also his initial bout of artistic rebellion. Keitel's patronage was more than acting. He financed Reservoir Dogs and counseled Tarantino through his inaugural chaotic shoot. And yet, Keitel's old-school instincts frequently clashed with Tarantino's unyielding vision. Keitel viewed scripts as a directorial dialogue. Tarantino handled his lines as intangible scripture, a song that could not be rewritten. Harvey was priceless, Tarantino has said, but he wanted to remake the music. For Tarantino, each line was a note in a pre-written score. When Keitel questioned, it was a threat to authority. Crew members recalled fiery arguments about character motivation and blocking, moments when Tarantino had to stand up for his vision against an actor with many more years' experience. Nevertheless, the movie turned out to be an independent classic, in large part due to Keitel's presence and perseverance. Tarantino, however, subsequently acknowledged the experience had left him exhausted. "He saved my movie, but almost broke me in the process," he said. The guilt was double-layered, appreciation for the chance Keitel provided him, but recognition of the cost. His mentorship was both blessing and curse, defining Tarantino's career and making the first of its deep scars. Number 7. Leonardo DiCaprio. Tarantino had by then been working with one of the world's best actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, when he cast him in Django Unchained and subsequent Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The outcome was unprecedented, but Tarantino has admitted that the intensity of their working relationship was not an easy ride. DiCaprio pushed the limits, challenged motives, and insisted on changes. Tarantino marveled at the craftsmanship, but conceded the experience was exhausting. Regret, at times, does not translate to disappointment. It translates to the price of genius leaving scars in its trail. In Django Unchained, DiCaprio's performance as Calvin Candy was enthralling, but the now infamous dinner scene in which DiCaprio shattered glass and bled on set divulged the extremes. Tarantino was complimenting the dedication, but eventually confessed to it scaring him. "Leo is fearless," he said, "but fearless can be terrifying on set." That statement both praised and was nervous. The partnership carried over to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where DiCaprio's performance as Rick Dalton was one of his most nuanced. Once again, the process was grueling. DiCaprio demanded to pick apart each beat, challenge dialogue, and hunt relentlessly for greater truth, a process that paced a bit slower but escalated stakes. "It's like 12 rounds with a heavyweight with Leo," Tarantino said. The payoff was dazzling, but it came at the cost of exhaustion. Crew members called the set a war zone of ideas, genius forged in combat, intensity that could exhaust a day's worth of life. Tarantino's sorrow was not for the art. They created unforgettable film, but for the price. Working with DiCaprio was always worth fighting for, but always a struggle. Greatness arrived, but at great expense. The career of Quentin Tarantino has always been characterized by brashness. His movies are recalled for incisive dialogue, shocking violence, and characters that remain planted in memory. But behind all those myths are human tales. Tales of actors and directors coming together in ways that left both with victory and regret. Regret is not always defeat. It is sometimes a mark of risk, the unavoidable shadow of ambition. Tarantino's confessions make us remember that film is not merely what happens on screen. It is about trust, friction, fatigue, and the delicate chemistry that either sends a movie into glory or pulls it towards failure. These 7 names are testament that art leaves scars on both sides of the lens. And in Tarantino's universe, even remorse is part of the legend, scrawled indelibly onto the history of contemporary cinema.